Hi, this is Timothy Zahn, author of Thrawn, and you're listening to Star Wars Reactions. Good for you.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We are so glad you're joining us today. We got an incredible episode for you. My name is Aaron Harris, and not joining me this week is David Motters, my co-host. He is still out taking care of some family situations, so we're wishing him the best and hope everything turns out fantastic there. We miss you, brother, but the show must go on, and I figured what a perfect time to have our guest with us tonight. And I know, David, when you find out who this is, you are going to be jealous, and I'm sorry. I promise we'll get him back on it when you get back. But, you know, this is a man who everybody will recognize his voice. If you've listened up to Coffee with Kenobi, you will recognize his voice. He was the newsman. He is just an all-around great commentator, awesome guy. I got to meet him for the first time face-to-face here recently when they were here for the Star Cruiser trip on the Halcyon. And I am so excited to have him on Star Wars Reactions. Joining me tonight is none other than Tom Gross. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you doing?
Oh, I am well. Thank you so much. What an introduction. Wow. I was starting to feel important there.
Yes, my friend, you are.
Yes, indeed. The trip to the Halcyon, that seems like so long ago until I start looking at pictures, and then it feels like just yesterday. That was such a magnificent experience. So yeah, awesome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We're glad you could join me tonight. And we're going to do with you what we call our reactions chat. So and everybody that listens will know that this is just where we get a guest in and we explore their fandom and see what makes them tick in fandom and see how their journey has gone through their lives and just get exposure to other points of views when it comes to fandom and other journeys, and everybody's journey is unique. And we here, David and I know we love exploring those unique journeys. So if you're ready, Tom, let's get the conversation going.
I am ready.
All right. Well, let's start with the most basic of questions when it comes to someone's journey in the fandom, which is how and when did your fandom begin?
Oh, wow. Okay, let's get in the Wayback Machine here. And let's head back to 1977. I was 7 years old when Star Wars was released in the theaters. And so I don't have any recollection of the build up to it or anything like that. All I know is my grandma Counter was in town from Alabama. And she usually would do special things with us. She would do something with my brother, then something with my sister, then something with me. And so when it came my turn, I do remember her saying, there's a spaceship movie coming out that I would like to take you to. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's go. Anything with grandma is always a good time.
Absolutely.
And so we went to the Fox Valley Mall in Aurora, Illinois, and went to the theater there. And that is where I first experienced Star Wars. And
nice.
I think I sat there with my eyes wide open. I mean, this is coming from a point of view where, the only other movie I can remember really from that time, I mean, I guess a couple there, Robin Hood, like a live action Robin Hood. and a Rumpelstiltskin movie, I think. And so when you have that as the context of what you see when you go to the movies, and then you come in, you sit down, and there's this crawl that I remember my grandma reading to me, and then boom, a spaceship flies by, and then the Star Destroyer comes over the top, and you're just sitting there like feeling the rumble of it all, just completely blown away. And then not long after that, we went with my family, and I sat next to my dad. And I've shared this story on Coffee with Kenobi before, but my dad fell asleep. And I would never forget him waking up during the medal ceremony. And, the "May the Force be with you" at some point is said. And my dad turns to me and he says, "What's the Force?" It's a legendary story that my family told for years and years and years. So, but no, that's where it all started. And then, and then the action figures and the trading cards and the ships and the Death Star and all of that stuff started pouring into the house, because my parents were happy to, support something that I absolutely loved. And so it's hard to say what I loved the most, and here's the cool part is I hope other people have moms like this, where everything that I had as a kid was saved. Even when I went to college, it all moved up into an attic. And when I came back from college and I bought my first house, I went to clear out my things from my mom's house, and by gosh, there were all my action figures and my X-Wing and my TIE Fighter and my Land Speeder and all of the books, the photo albums that had the Star Wars cards, the blue set and the yellow set and the red set and all of those. I was like, oh my gosh, how lucky I was to have all of that.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. I love that your mom saved all that.
Yes.
That's incredible. It's such a nice surprise too, when you go to move all that stuff out, not knowing it was there.
Yeah. Oh, it was such a great day. It was a great day.
Oh yeah. I can imagine opening those boxes and be going, oh
yeah, it really was like seeing it all again for the first time, because, we're in that sort of lull from 1984 to 1999 or something like that. Is that where nothing was really happening on the big screen? Now things were happening in novels and things like that, but because of college and because of life getting started, there was sort of like a dormancy in me when it came to Star Wars. And I know that I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan as well. And so like my mom kept all of those books too. Oh, wow. And so there was all of that sort of dormancy of the 1990s. It's really the decade that I like to forget because nothing was, I feel like nothing was really happening in life until the turn of the century. So I had all that stuff, but because of life and new jobs and careers and whatnot, it sort of all just, it was great. I knew I had it, but I just sort of let it set until, seriously, until like the mid 2000s, or right around when I guess they did the re-release of the original trilogy leading into Phantom Menace.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. See, I had a similar experience when it comes to like opening stuff and not knowing it's there. Because with all the traveling I did growing up, with my parents being missionaries and going overseas, I had no clue what I had in boxes. And when we bought our house, Mom and Dad brought over a couple boxes. Hey, these were in our storage shed and survived the house fire. They're yours. Take them. Open it up, and right on top is the original from the 80s Optimus Prime.
Oh my goodness.
And
what a great treasure.
And I'm like, oh, I don't care what else is in this box. This just made my day.
Indeed. Did you remember how to do like make him go from the semi to the robot? What I don't remember what the Transformer robot.
I sat there for about 20 minutes just transferring him back and forth.
Oh
just
yeah.
Going back and forth.
Oh,
until my wife came in and goes, you're not done with that box yet? I'm like, no, I just opened it.
Yeah, right.
So Oh yeah.
Cool.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So of course you've had a full journey through fandom since you started in 77. So
Mhm.
you've had a lot of experiences and stuff. So what is it about Star Wars in particular that has appealed to you as a fan?
Huh. It changes as you grow and you age. And so I think originally what I loved about it was just the action, the adventure, the laser pistols and the lightsabers, and this menacing dark villain with a mask, and he breathes and all of that. And I think that was just what I loved as a kid. And even like the cliffhangers when Star Wars was over, the Death Star is destroyed, Vader's TIE fighter goes spinning off into space, and they have the ceremony. You kind of think it's over. You're like, that was awesome, that was cool, awesome. And so when Empire Strikes Back came out, we're like, what, there's another one? And I remember looking at, watching it, and then I was just a little bit older, and so my best friend and I went and saw it, and then we had all the discussions afterwards about, is Boba who's Boba Fett, and is Vader really Luke's father, and what's going on? And so there's all of that. So I think just the adventure side of it is what appealed to me at that time. And now as an adult, I think it's how do I describe this? It's the all of the different ways that a movie like Star Wars appeals to one, as far as the music. I can't think about Star Wars without hearing a John Williams score, or even now, a Ludwig Göransson score, or something like that. So it's so fulfilling. And I think a lot of that in today's world is because it brings childhood, it brings adult experiences, it brings a fandom that comes along with it, and there's just a love for this. And it's a fantasy story, but it's a science fiction story. And so it's this multi-genre story, and then they become masterful about bringing Mandalorian and the Western feel to it, and the spy and espionage with Andor and all those things. And I just think it's in my world today, what draws me to Star Wars is just the depth and the exploration of a galaxy, a setting, as well as just so many different characters. I'm never at a loss when I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, which doesn't happen often, but if I am, and I think about Star Wars, you can dig in mentally to so many different areas of Star Wars, just from characters to planets to ships to, like I said, the music, and getting into the fandom again. So I think, I don't know if I answered the question directly, but it's everything for me when it comes to storytelling.
Love it. And it's the storytelling in Star Wars is just unmatched, I would say, when it comes to really any fandom. It's just so emotional and in depth and engaging and so character driven. It makes it quite appealing on multiple levels. And John Williams scores, man, I can't. That's what got me into Star Wars to begin with, was the music. Because I listening to the music all the time. I still do listen to the music. Today at work, I was listening to the Rogue One soundtrack. So
Nice.
It's all encompassing.
In my Spotify, I made a Star Wars playlist where I took the themes of all the Disney Plus shows, and then I've got, of course, the Star Wars fanfare theme, and some other key ones like the Emperor, why can't I think of it? The March.
Imperial March.
Yes, thank you very much. brain freeze there. But then I also bring in, the Rebels theme and the Bad Batch intro music, and just all of it. It's so wonderful, and all of it makes me happy because it's something that just brings out emotions in me. For example, most recently, the Ahsoka theme song. I don't know what it is. I don't know, remember, and I couldn't tell you which episode it was, but I sort of just sat there on the couch as the show ended and the credits came up. And I usually do make a habit of watching the credits and listening to the music. And there was something just so emotional about that Ahsoka theme song that it kind of made me feel melancholy and almost sad in a sense, but not like a sadness like I'm so sad that, but just it just drew that emotion out of me. And it was so cool. And so, Star Wars does all of that for us. And I don't know, it's just it's a wonderful thing. I'm just sitting here looking around my office and I'm sure my office is unusual to anyone that's not a Star Wars fan, but I have 2 shelves of books of Star Wars, and I just look over there and I can think of different stories and characters and events that happen in the galaxy looking over there. And I look over on another shelf and I've got Ahsoka, Grogu, and Mandalorian, and I've got a dewback with a stormtrooper on top of it on a shelf above that. I mean, there's just so much. And it's so much. It's like a blanket that you wrap around yourself.
Oh, love that metaphor. It really is like a blanket. It is a comfort zone for a lot of people.
Indeed.
A nice distraction from what's going on. And it's somewhere you can always feel accepted and enjoy and be happy and get your mind off things. That's why we love it.
Indeed.
So the next question kind of ties into that, which is through your journey with fandom, what has Star Wars and your fandom's biggest impact been on you personally?
Wow, that's a great question. Jeez, how fandom has been an impact? How fandom has impacted me?
Yes, sir.
Wow. I mean, besides just giving me rich friendships, I mean, seriously, I mean, you and David, and of course, Dan Zare and Corey Clubb and Greg McLaughlin and Ross Howell. I mean, just so many people have just had a personal impact on me across the board when it comes to Star Wars. But, there's things about the fandom that I absolutely love, and probably I'm trying to think. Yeah, this is probably number one when I go to a convention, Star Wars Celebration, something like that, is that when I'm there, I feel like I'm really in the Star Wars galaxy sometimes because of all the cosplay. Mm-hmm. And I just think the cosplay, the level of cosplay and the detail that people put into those costumes are so incredible. And not only does it make me feel like I'm a part of Star Wars, or that I look over there, I'm like, oh, that's so cool to see a stormtrooper just kind of walking through the crowd. but I appreciate those people so much because they have something I never could have. And that is a vision to build and make something from scratch. That, I mean, I can look at a stormtrooper outfit, I can look at Rey's costume, and I think, okay, I can make that for my daughter. No, I can't. I can't even come close. I might be able to go to Target and buy some khaki pants and find, even there, that's the end of it for me. But I'm just so appreciative of those people to bring their passions and let everyone else enjoy them. And so, the cosplay is wonderful. The conventions are absolutely incredible because, cosplays fit into that. But that's where you see people. And you get to meet friends that you hear on shows like this, and you get to go face to face with them, and it's so fulfilling because, like you said earlier, Star Wars fans, for the most part, largely are so accepting and so accepting of, oh, you thought that? Well, this is how I saw it, and it's a shared disagreement. But it's not a contentious one. It's not one that causes argument. It's just like, really? I've never thought of it that way. And you just move on from there. And, and and everybody appreciates everyone else's point of view and ideas. And maybe it's because of, Obi-Wan's, line about point of view. We see things all from a certain point of view. And so we're taught that as Star Wars fans to accept those types of things. But yeah, the fandom definitely has an impact on me. I mean, I've even tried to build a tiny little fandom here in our community. At my school, I have our Steam Into Star Wars Day, and it's so great. I love when I have that show, and we do it in January. And like right now, the kids and I are already planning for this January show. And one of my favorite things is not the week before, by the way, or even the month before. But my favorite part is when the time comes, 9:30 comes, when the doors open. And, usually people trickle in, and then before I know it, there's a couple hundred people there. And as the person who planned it all, I'm at a point now where the machine is running. And so I can step back and I can just watch people. And it doesn't matter if it's a 5-year-old child or a 45-year-old adult. The smiles, the good times, the conversations, all of that are just so wonderful. All those weeks leading up to an event like that are stressful. And I think this is the last year. I'm not doing this again. This is too much on me. But it all becomes worth it when I watch Star Wars fans walk in and experience, even mine's a teeny tiny little convention, but just any type of convention where you just go and people are having such a great time. And I think that's the impact is the people, and how much people love this story and this film that started in 1977.
I love that, because people have the biggest impact on fandom. And a lot of times they don't even realize it. Some of my fondest memories of fandom are involving people. I know when we talk about Star Wars weekends, we talk about all the actors, we talk about the costumed characters around, all the Star Wars music playing through Hollywood studios, but it always comes back to me to the people that were there, the people that I met, the total strangers that were geeking out with me because Bray Park just walked by. I mean, it's just
right.
Simple stuff like that just makes a connection, and you can have that connection with just a complete and total stranger. But you're not really a stranger because you're geeking out over the exact same thing. So
right. Yeah, and it's what's amazing about it is, so we have this common bond of Star Wars, but our lives have grown together in so many different ways. So Aaron, you and I got to meet at Disney Springs this June when I came down for the Star Cruise that you mentioned. We had that Dan set up that get together at that the Indiana Jones bar. Sorry, I don't remember the name of it.
Jock Lindsay's.
Yes, and there we all were. The thing that threaded through all of us was Star Wars. But I have to tell you, my conversations about Star Wars were pretty limited. I mean, we shared some here and there, thoughts about this or that, but really it's more about, how's your family? How are you guys doing? Yep. It's so good to see you in person and talk. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're all here because of Star Wars, but we're all here because we're friends and we've grown together, and we have this love for each other as family. And it's just, it blows my mind. It really blows my mind. I don't know that there's anything else that makes me feel that way in such a way. I mean, I mentioned Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games, and I go to those conventions. It's a similar feel, but there's something about Star Wars and the storytelling that's unified. We've all seen the exact same stories. When we do role-play games, I've experienced this, you've experienced that, same story, but differently, which has its own benefits. but Star Wars is a singular story that we all love and enjoy, and even though we see it from different points of view and whatnot, it still is the same. And so we grow together as a fandom and as a community in such a unique way, and it is just great. And I think, when you talk about impact, that's what it is I know that on the worst day that I'm having, where nothing seems to be going right, or I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I can just come across Star Wars someplace because it's so ingrained in our culture. I mean, my office is crawling in Star Wars things, so I get to work and I'm just like, and I think about all of you, and that helps me to process and be like, okay, I am not the only one that could possibly be having a bad day right now, and I don't want anyone else to have one, but I know that you're all out there. And I know that my friends have got my back no matter what happens or what I do. And so carry on, you move on. And so that's what, I mean, my goodness. Sorry, I've carried on way too long, speaking of carrying on. So, but that's the impact that the fandom has had on me. Just the connections and the fans that I've met and become friends with.
Absolutely. And no, you were perfect. It was perfectly said. You could have kept going if you wanted. Because I totally agree with everything. Star Wars fans become more of a family over time. The longer you get to know people, the more you're engaged with them, it becomes more like a family, and it makes it so much more takes the relationship onto a deeper level just because of these movies and shows. So let's kind of move in through to our next question here, because we've talked about when your fandom started, what appeals to you, what's biggest impact, but through your journey through fandom, from when you saw the first movie with your grandma in 77, through the trip to the Halcyon, and now, how have you seen the Star Wars fandom change over those years?
Wow. I guess on a personal level, the fandom that I experienced as a kid, from whatever grade you're in when you're 7 years old to when I'm in high school, when Return of the Jedi comes out, or close to high school, I guess. The fandom was so localized. It was my best friend across the street and we talked and we played with the action figures and we flew the ships around the house and out on the street and all of that. And I think, I don't know, I had Star Wars cereal at some point, I think. And so the fandom was there and with my neighbor friends. And then, that would go to the school and you would discover who your people were at school. And, in that time, late 70s, early 80s, in some circles, it wasn't cool to be a Star Wars fan. It was kind of nerdy. And so you kind of had to tread lightly in some places in the realm of teenager. And so, but to your question, the fandom has changed because that's where it was when I was a kid. And then I think that, the internet changed that, where, wow, there's StarWars.com and I can get on there and there are message boards and I can communicate with other fans and all that kind of thing. And I didn't really play in that world very much because that was coming around in the 90s, my lost decade. And then I went into teaching, and so that took all my time, but I took time for Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith and so forth. But I think where fandom has gotten now, it's because of social media and podcasts like this one, where it's become so rich. And I think it started with my friend Eric across the street, where we would spend hours talking about it, to now we have everything at our fingertips, from a robust StarWars.com to amazing podcasts across the board that cover everything, super specific things, to very generalized podcasts where it kind of tackles all subjects. And then these massive conventions. I don't know how in the world I missed the first comic or a Star Wars celebration. I mean, one of those original ones was in my back door at Indianapolis. I mean, just an hour and a half away. I'm like, how did I not know that was going on? Oh yeah, that was my lost decade. But I mean, all of that has grown to such a level, and so I don't know. I think I've gotten off track a little bit, but to come back to how it's changed, it's become so rich. And of course, with richness, you find, there's always pockets of negativity. And so that's another place that the Star Wars fandom has grown and changed, is that, people have a voice, and they should. I mean, we should all have a voice, but there's the fandom out there that wants to be, the devil's advocate on things. And perfectly fine. I don't mind it until it becomes toxic. And so that's a part of the fandom that I don't care for. And I feel like I do a really good job of avoiding that, because half the time something is mentioned to me, I'm like, who said what? I don't know what you're talking about. And so I think that's a lesson in keeping a nice, clean social media, knowing who you're following and allowing to follow and whatnot. But it's part of the fandom, whether we like it or not, it's part of our community. Yeah. And so I think it's just over the years become such a rich fandom and community. And we've talked about how, you go anywhere and you say, oh, you're a Star Wars fan. I mean, I was working with some kids in a concession stand last week, and I don't know, there are 4 or 5 kids. Most of them are girls because it's a book club that I run. And so we're all sitting there, and I've got a couple students here that are freshmen and I don't really know them. And so we're just chit-chatting and talking. And one of the freshman girls goes, I love Star Wars. I popped my collar and I said, really? But that is it, when you meet somebody who you don't know, especially outside of the Star Wars zone, and you discover that they are a Star Wars fan, you instantly are friends, right? And so it's so cool. I just love that. But it's interesting. I've never been asked that question of how it's changed over the years. At least I don't think so. And so I'm just fascinated by how much life is, the world has changed in my life, because that, like I said, and I don't mean to repeat it, but my fandom started with one other person. Well, I guess, my grandma, but she wasn't necessarily a fan. She just wanted to do something for her grandson. But my neighbor across the street was he and I were my first, Star Wars community. And then it kind of built from there, and one by one, and then the bing bong of the internet. I'm trying to think what it is. When you used to have to log in and went,
you've got mail.
Dial up. That's what I was looking for. I mean, and to now, it's just unbelievable. And how much closer we are to the creators and the people who make Star Wars come to life with us. That would be another huge piece of how fandom has grown, that we can get on to social media and find an official page of, you mentioned Ray Park earlier. I'll just, go with Ray Park, and you could potentially put a question out, and potentially you could get an answer back. Anthony Daniels and so many others are out there available. And even if it's not a two-way communication, you still can see and hear what they have to say. And you didn't have that access. You'd had to, be a part of the Star Wars fan club and get their little magazine that folded out into a poster to discover. I mean, I remember pouring through that to try to learn more and more about the story and the people who make it come to life and all of that. But now we've got it right there at our fingertips. And so I think that's another big way the fandom has grown and changed, is the accessibility of those people who make it come to life.
Oh, wonderful. Definitely. Time and technology has made that possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. For all the awful things people say about social media, there's one place that, that's the purpose of it. That's the purpose of it, connecting.
Oh, definitely it is. It definitely is. And there is definitely got some benefits in connecting, because I've seen the growth of a great Star Wars community, and it has made the fandom completely different because of it. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we got some more questions we're going to go through. Before we do, though, we're going to take just a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to ask Tom some more of these questions and, of course, wrap up this week's episode. So hang on. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Aaron here at Star Wars Reactions. Joining me, of course, is our guest, Tom Gross, and we are having a blast going through these questions and exploring Tom's fandom through the Star Wars here.
So much fun. So much fun.
It is. It's a nice journey, and some of these questions will take you back and make you dig in to your mind and think for a little bit, because it's fun. So let's go with our next question here, and let's explore something fun. What has been your favorite either Star Wars moment or experience that you have had?
Ooh, wow. So many. I mean, even before I ever met Dan Zaire and Coffee with Kenobi came into my life, this would be a hard question to ask, but now oh my gosh, how do I go there? I mean,
I know.
Jiminy Christmas. I mean, it's hard to pass up on the Star Cruiser, but I think I'm going to go with something else. I've narrowed it down to two. Okay. So I've thrown can you believe I've thrown hundreds and thousands of experiences out to narrow it down to two experiences. So I'll go with one, but I have to mention the other if that's
go
fair.
Right ahead, my friend.
So what I have to say, this is my honorable mention, is I had the opportunity to go to San Francisco with Dan Zaire to the Rancho Obi-Wan Gala. And that whole weekend was marvelous. We went to the Lucasfilm offices and got a tour there. I saw the Yoda sitting out in the courtyard and met Matt Martin, and that was a magnificent experience on top of the gala that was just mind-blowing. Going to Rancho Obi-Wan is a Star Wars fan's dream. I could spend a weekend, retreat, come in Friday, leave Sunday afternoon, and I still don't know that I would see every little thing that is in there. And Steve Sansweet is just the coolest guy, the nicest guy. You know, I met him once, and then at Star Wars Celebration, he said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And if he didn't know me, I sure felt like he knew me. You know, it was really cool. So my number one has to be my very first Star Wars Celebration. And what makes it number one, it was in the city in which I love the most, and that is the Windy City, Chicago. Oh my gosh, it was so awesome. I went with Corey and Dan, and we took the train from Central Illinois up to Chicago, took an Uber, and when I first walked into the McCormick Place, and I've been to the McCormick Place dozens of times for different things, but never anything like this. And I'm pretty sure, like most people probably, their first celebration, I walked around that show floor just eyes. I mean, I had to bring the eye drops because my eyelids weren't going to close. They just weren't going to shut, because I didn't want to miss anything, as would be with any celebration. But again, what made this one special is this is my town. This is, my Cubs play here, my Bears play here, and I've been to Chicago. I grew up 50 miles from Chicago, so it was I was there often, and to be in some place so magical, but in my own city, was just an unbelievable thing. We'd leave, and I'd be like, "Oh, I know these streets. I know where I am," and how much fun it was on. I think it was the Sunday, where in April it snowed, and it snowed several inches, And I remember seeing people from California, like, I've never seen snow before. And I'm like, thank you. Welcome to Chicago. And so it was that mixture of my own hometown to the Star Wars celebration that just made it probably. And I think that was the springboard to so many other amazing Star Wars moments, like the Galactic Cruiser and all of those things. But without that original first Star Wars celebration, I don't know that I would have made it to those. I wouldn't have understood the importance of what some of these Star Wars experiences really are. And man, if I have to say, if anybody has not been to Star Wars Celebration and it is even remotely close, I mean, a flight away, you have to go. You absolutely have to go. There's no experience like a Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, no, totally agree with that. It is the most unique experience you will have as a Star Wars fan. It is incredible atmosphere and the energy in those buildings.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, whether it's in Chicago, Anaheim, Orlando, Indianapolis, the energy in the building when Celebration is there, is unmatched. I remember when I went to my first celebration in Orlando at the Orange County Convention Center, and I'd been there several times before for different conventions and meetings and all kinds of stuff. But walking in there for Celebration, it was like a completely different atmosphere, a completely different energy. It was just incredible. It's literally a high that you just can't get enough of.
I mean, it's seemingly impossible to put words. I don't think there's words in the English language that describe the depth of joy and fun and experience that goes into a. I mean, I came back and my family was like, "So was it fun?" I'm like, I don't even know that I can say it was fun, because it was something more than that. It was a different kind of fun that I've never really experienced before. And I just think about like one afternoon I was standing in the main concourse, and I don't remember what this group is called, but they're like the beatboxing, and they've got the radio on their shoulders, and they're in the track suits, but they got the stormtrooper helmets on, and they're just rocking and walking through, and it's probably 20, 25 of them, and I'm just like, what is going on right now? Oh. There's a name. They have a name, and I just can't think of what it is right now. But and you know, Aaron, when we think about a Star Wars Celebration, it is everything that we have just talked about in the last 30, 35 minutes. Everything that we talked about it culminates in that weekend. Yes. And it's just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I can't believe that I'm 53 years old and I'm still talking about Star Wars.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's awesome. Oh, my word. Yeah, it's an unmatched experience for sure. So we got two more questions before we hit our speed round.
Ooh,
So here we go. All right. So next one, and these get into a little bit more, and these will make you think. These are some of the two of the tougher questions. So
all right,
forewarn you there, my friend. Of course, Star Wars is, the saga has themes that run through the stories, whether the comics, the movies, the shows, themes like redemption, hope, items like that, and family, and all kinds of different themes. What theme from the Star Wars saga has had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, boy, I think about this one a lot. And I mean, there's two that stand out to me, but I think one is the tops. And so, I mean, hope. How do you not talk about Star Wars and without talking about hope? And it's one of the things I mean, my favorite Star Wars movie, and I don't know if this is, am I stealing should I save that? I don't know if
Go
that's
ahead.
a speed round question, but
It is one of the speed round questions. But
sorry, I did. I'm gonna foil you here and tell you my favorite Star Wars movie is, for years it was Empire Strikes Back, but it's Rogue One now, and just all of the lines and all of the emotions of Rogue One are all about hope, which I think is magnificent. But that's not the theme that's tops for me. Probably was for a long time, but now as an adult, now as a dad of 2 daughters and a husband, the theme in Star Wars that means the most to me is family. For lots and lots of different reasons, and I love all of the. You can just sort of take you can take the cursory look at Star Wars and say, well, of course it's about family. Luke, Darth Vader is Luke's father, and then discovers that Leia is part of the family, and then the depth of that, and then you have the Skywalker saga, which is all about that line and that family, and the power and the loss and all of that. But then you can take a little bit closer look with a magnifying glass, I suppose, but you probably don't even need that, and just look at all the other family themed relationships that are out there. I mean, when you look at the cockpit of the Falcon in Star Wars, the original Star Wars, and you got Chewie and Han and Leia and Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi and R2 and 3PO all squished into that cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And I would even say, in a way, the Millennium Falcon is, I mean, I when you drive a car long enough, you give it a name, Betsy or whatever, and Betsy becomes part of the family. And when you sell Betsy or take her to the junkyard, you weep a little bit and you cry and you miss. And so even the Falcon is part, in my mind, is part of the family that is there. But even, you can even go further than that, and just so many themes of family and family relationships. You've got, and especially in a lot of the mentor type of situations, you've got, Kanan Jarrus and Ezra, and then you've got Hera, and you almost have like a mother, father, son, but it's bigger than that, because you've got Sabine and you have Zeb and other characters that are in that become part of the Phoenix Squadron. Yeah. And so you look around and you see so much of this, and you realize that maybe, and I'm just going to tell you right now, this just came to mind, and I'm probably way behind many of the philosophers here of Star Wars, but maybe it's because of the theme of family that hope is so powerful. Because where is hope the strongest but with family? And so, that it's just been a powerful piece for me as a viewer and an enjoyer, someone who enjoys Star Wars. But you also have, another part of my life that I share it, but I don't know how many people know it, but I was adopted as a child. And I never thought twice about the family that raised me as my family, but nonetheless, and so when Bail Organa takes Leia and Obi-Wan takes Luke to Owen, I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. And I think at some point, I don't know how conscious it was, or maybe it was or wasn't as a kid, but I was like, that's kind of like me. It's kind of like how I came to a family is through, some sort of, and so I felt kind of special about that, because Luke Skywalker did well, Princess Leia did well, and they become heroes, and they didn't have to have, their mother and their father that gave birth to them be their parents. Someone else was able to do that. And so, and there's other I go back to Ezra. Ezra is he's an adopted son to the Ghost. Yeah. And so, and I just use those two, but there's so many others. I mean, even Omega with the Bad Batch, and talk about a strong family, and talk about when we, it's fair to split. I can give spoilers now, right? That's been around.
Yeah. Yeah,
when Tech falls to his death, I swear I sat there and I cried. And it's an age thing. I'm telling you, it's an age thing. I didn't used to cry about things like that, but it's such a powerful theme, family,
Yeah.
that it's magnificent. And so on those levels, with my own personal life, but then also just looking across the entire Star Wars galaxy, family is the theme that speaks the most to me.
I absolutely love that. That is well said, well spoken. I mean, I don't think there's anything I could add to that, I would want to, because that was just so perfect. And no, I did not know that you were adopted. And because my youngest came out of the system. So I have always, and from the moment we got her, it has completely changed how I looked at Owen and Baru.
Yes,
especially Owen being in his shoes now with my youngest, coming out of that system. It just, the way I used to be like, he's just such an arrogant jerk. And then I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, he's being a dad to somebody that's not, just to someone that's wasn't his to begin with, but he is accepted it and made this Luke his, and he's doing everything he can to protect. So I related a lot more to him after that. And family is huge.
And even more talking about Owen, because I always felt the same way. I'm like, dude, just let him go. Let him drink his blue milk and do someone else do his work. But that was as a kid that I thought all of that. And so, the Obi-Wan miniseries brought even more context to that, and people are like, oh, he only wants Luke around to be, an indentured servant, or, to do the work of the farm. And he doesn't really care about Luke and hogwash. I don't believe a second of that. I think he didn't want to lose Luke because he loves Luke.
Yes.
And he's afraid to lose him to the Empire or to the rebellion, or, become a number, a statistic in a war. And so, he uses the work as the excuse to keep him around, but he's fought for him. He's been scared by, inquisitors and hunters coming for Luke. And so I don't think he's a jerk at all anymore, but I'm with you. I thought the same thing as a kid, and really even in the young adulthood. But yeah, it's an amazing story. And I was just looking over at my bookshelf, and I see Catalyst sitting over there, and I think about that family, the Ursos, and just the terror and the horror as a parent of Krennic coming and ripping the family apart, and seeing your mother shot down in front of you, and running and hiding in a hole. I mean, no wonder Jyn Erso is so like sharp and tough and all of that. I mean, good heavens, just the cost of the Empire. The cost of the Empire.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we got our final question.
Okay.
For this round.
By the way, I'm shooting for the record length of your show here. That's what I did.
You got a ways to go, my friend.
Oh, okay. All right.
You got a long ways to go before you
got to wind up here. We got to wind up.
So before we get to our speed round questions, our final major question would be, how do you feel about the current direction that fandom is going?
In terms of like the story? Yeah. That's a good question. I think, so how, when I'm trying, sorry, I'm really, this is a great question, and I haven't really thought about this before. How do I feel that the fandom is going? I just think, I felt like for a while there that we were getting too much. And I don't think that was something that was, I was alone in that. We hit a movie every other year, and then the pandemic came and we were pumping out magnificent shows, but it was kind of like, wow, we've got a lot going on here.
Yeah.
On top of that, the High Republic, an entire new era of the Star Wars galaxy opening up, and so many great books coming out, and attempting to try to keep up with them. I finally had to decide, just, okay, the High Republic is like a river. I'm going to catch it where I can, instead of trying to keep up with it. And so all that said, it's gotten to a point now where I feel we've got a nice balance of content coming out. A couple of Disney Plus shows coming out a year, maybe an animated series somewhere in there. And then on top of that, another way I massively consume also in the comic book world, with the Star Wars comics. I don't know that I get all of them, but I keep up with Vader and the mainline Star Wars, Bounty Hunters, and Aphra. Those are the 4 that I get. And I love those stories, and I love that somehow they fit into a larger story.
Yeah.
Which is what's so cool about all of that is, wow, this Sana Staros, what a random character to be brought in. But I always go back to, it's a big galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big galaxy. And so, like in the Bounty Hunters, comic, there's so many cool bounty hunters, and you're like, where were all these guys during The Empire Strikes Back? Well, it's a big galaxy. They were around, but they weren't chosen by Vader to come and hunt down Luke Skywalker or Han Solo. Yep. So the direction I feel like it's going is really solid, at least for my fandom and my consumption of the story. I like the novels that are coming out. I think the authors that they've gotten, and not that they've had poor authors in the past, but the authors they have now are top notch. And you've got some really well-known Claudia Gray and Charles Soule and some of those, Daniel Jose Older, and then you have a few others that are a little bit more unknown in the Star Wars community, but put out some great stuff. And I try to keep up with those stories as well. I'm just looking over at my shelf, and I've got, it's about half and half. I've read about half of them, and the other half are, there's a list. There's a list. But then when we talk about the announcement of the movies that they made, you've got a post Rise of Skywalker. You have a pre Phantom Menace, pre Republic film, and then you got one between Jedi and Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. I think those are 3 pinholes that I would love to see filled. Not filled, but just give me a major event to kind of put into those and help me understand how we get from Empire to First Order. Give me something that happens now that Rey is she's a Jedi, and so what's the future? And then we've always been asking questions. How did we get to where we got? Where did the Jedi come from, and where did the Sith come from, and what's the Sith story? Palpatine gives some of it away, but is it legend? Is it a lie? Is it truth? I mean, that's what you get when you deal with the Sith, is what is truth. It's all from a certain point of view, I suppose someone would say. But
you beat me to it.
Yeah. But I'm really happy with where I am as a Star Wars fan right now. Ahsoka wrapping up, and a lot of people didn't particularly care for the way it ended, and that's cool. I understand those sentiments, that way too much stuff left out there, and we let Baylan Skull and why can't I think of her name?
Shin Hati.
We really sort of dropped them at the end. But, I'm a Cub fan, so, I always have hope. And so I look at those and I just say, you know what? I wish I would have had more of those 2 characters, but I'm at peace with where they are and what they gave us and where we left them. I'm at peace with that, because I feel like if it needs to be told, we've got a place where their story can continue. And I'm okay with Ahsoka and Sabine stuck where Ezra and Thrawn were, and will they find him or not? I'm thrilled that Ezra's back with Hera. I mean, the importance of their relationship, and it's almost like Ezra's back with Mom and whatnot. And so, I mean, we don't really see that yet, but that's what we're to imply. And I think the threat of Thrawn is an incredibly compelling story. I wasn't particularly compelled with Thrawn in Ahsoka. I felt like he was more like sort of the motivation of why things are happening, but I kind of felt like if anybody got gypped, it was Thrawn's character. But nonetheless, I think the importance of him returning at some point. This is where the First Order has to come out of something that Thrawn does, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm sure I'm wrong, but that's where I am with it. So no, the answer, that was a long answer to your question of I'm super happy as a Star Wars fan. I'm sitting back and I'm enjoying the ride and looking at all my Grogu toys just right there. Okay, let's just get it out. Grogu is what's getting me from one thing to the next. I think he's the most amazing Star Wars character to me right now. I want to know more and more. I want novels, and I want cartoons, and I want comic books about Grogu. Mm-hmm. And I'm not joking. I can see about 12 to 15 Grogus from where I'm sitting right now. That's how much I love that character.
Nice.
But so I'm super happy.
Well, I would love to find out what happened to Grogu when he escaped with Keller and Beck. That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know, because that was you don't show us a clip like that and leave us hanging.
Right.
I feel they've done that a lot through The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and everything. So, Here, remember this? Yep. Okay. Uh-huh. Enjoy it. You could chew on that for a while.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we are.
Oh, are we ever? So, all right.
Okay.
Well,
I'm getting my shoes on.
Get shoes on. Shoes. We got our speed round coming up.
Excellent.
It's a total of 5 questions, which one you already answered. So that will be even quicker to answer. So are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Right, here we go. Speed round question number 1. What's your favorite movie?
Rogue One. Spoiler.
Spoiler. Who's your favorite character?
Oh, nuts. I knew this was going to be a question. Boy, it depends on, okay. No, it doesn't depend on anything. My favorite character is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Very cool.
I just love how it's speed round. Sorry. I just love the way he grows through the story.
Yes.
And, he's a general and he's a Jedi master and he was a Padawan and we get to see his whole story.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. He's if we're talking humans, he is my favorite. If we're just talking humans, androids, he comes second to Chopper. So
that's a hard one to pass up on.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I heard your glee and joy when he showed up in Ahsoka.
Oh, you have no clue.
I felt it.
The squeals that emanated from my body. But yes. All right. Empire or Rebellion?
Oh, Dave's not going to like this. Rebellion. Rebellion. You're in the wrong era, so I'm still safe. Rebellion.
Yes, you're still safe. You're still safe. It's not the First Order.
Fight for what's right.
Favorite moment from the movie or TV show?
Oh, wow. That's like asking me my favorite Star Wars experience. You know what? I'm going to go with the first thing that came to mind. I've got the pictures in my mind, and so I'm going to go with it. It may not always be my favorite moment, but right now it is. It's when the Mandalorian opens up the stroller. The tram?
The tram. Yeah,
that's not it.
Pram.
pram. Thank you. When he opens up the pram and sees Grogu for the very first time, that was a shocking moment. My jaw hit the ground. I was like, what is this? And then we fell in love.
Yep.
Speaking of family, there's another adopted family member. Yep.
There it is. All right. And last but not least, favorite song from a soundtrack.
Ooh. Well, I couldn't think of the name of it earlier, but definitely the Imperial March. That goes back a long, long way. And I love every variation. And I love when you catch just a bit of it when something evil is going on, but then it turns into something else. It's the best. That probably, I don't know. That's probably still my favorite soundtrack. I had the album as a kid, the double album, and would listen to that over and over and over again. But Imperial March is most definitely the top song off that album, and I think that's probably, with my feet to the fire, my favorite Star Wars song.
Sweet. Awesome.
Wow.
Well,
so much fun.
You did it. We made it through the speed round. All right. So, of course, if any of our listeners want to touch base with you, or, of course, online or anything, is there anywhere they can find you, hit you up and talk Star Wars or Dungeons and Dragons? Or
Oh, yes, indeed. Absolutely. So let's see. I'm on Twitter. So let me start with myself. You can talk Star Wars with me anytime you want to on Twitter. I am at Draftline, DRAFTLINE. Send me a question, follow me, whatever you want, and I would love to touch base with you. I don't do a ton of posting, but if you reach out to me, I will definitely engage and have a conversation with you. So Dungeons and Dragons. So, we talk about Star Wars being, a fantasy adventure. And it goes right along with Dungeons and Dragons. And I think that's why I love both of them. And they have such a parallel story. They came out at the same time. They went through they went through that dormant period of the late 80s and 90s, and then they came back in the 2000s, both Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars. And so that's my long way around, is if you love adventure and you love a fantasy story, check out my podcast with my good friend Dan Ream. We have a podcast called Teachers in the Dungeon, where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We share our stories. We give, I don't want to say advice, because what do I know? But we talk about and we share our thoughts and ideas. We interview authors. And in fact, we just had, speaking of Star Wars, we just had Sam Witwer, Michael Witwer, and Kyle Newman on to talk about their new book, Lore and Legends, just this week. And so if you love that kind of thing, we'd love for you to check out Teachers in the Dungeon. It's just a fun show. Don't think anything's going to be too terribly serious. We just have a good time. But you can follow us. So it's Teachers in the Dungeon on any podcast stream. But we are at Dungeon Teachers on Twitter, and we are Teachers in the Dungeon on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll have links to all those in our show notes, so you can get there easily when you're done listening.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Let me share. Yeah, that's
not
great.
a problem. We'll have links there. Of course, if you do want to reach out to David and let him know how much fun he missed, hit him up on Twitter at David_Modders, or on Instagram at David Modders. You can hit me up anytime on I guess it's not Twitter anymore. It's X.
That's right.
Twitter.
Sorry.
I'm still struggling with that trick.
Yeah.
Conversion there. But X, formerly known as Twitter, at TA Harris 121079. Of course, follow the show on social media as well. We are at SW Reactions Pod on X, used to be Twitter, Facebook. You can hit us up on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads, and Tumblr, where we are there at SW Reactions. And of course, feel free to leave us a voicemail anytime at speakpipe.com/Star Wars Reactions, or you can email us swreactions@gmail.com. Well, Tom, we end the show the same way each week.
Oh.
And that, of course, is with our Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week.
Ooh, great. Can't wait.
Since Dad, oh my gosh. Since David is not.
Well, he does have that. He does have that feeling.
Oh, I'll never hear the end of that.
I may not either.
All right. Since David is not here, you get to be my victim. I mean, my partner this week. So are you ready for this joke?
I am.
All right. This week's Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. Have you heard the story about Qui-Gon getting attacked by a dog?
Oh, I have not.
Oh, it was bad. He got mauled.
Oh, I think my laughter came before the boo.
He got mauled.
He got mauled. Very nice. Very nice. Well played.
You could say he got mauled to death, but I just think it's a little early for that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was great. What fun.
What a blast. What a blast. Tom, thank you so much for joining me this week. It has been a blast exploring your fandom and just hanging out and talking with you.
Oh, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And like I said, when David gets back, trust me, I know he's going to want to get you back on because he's going to be unhappy he missed this week. I can tell you that.
He and I could talk First Order. We could spend lots of time talking about the First Order.
There you go. There you go. We can have to set that up. We'll definitely set that up. So
excellent.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all so much for joining us this week. Y'all are the best. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. Wishing y'all the best. Do something nice for somebody this week. Make somebody smile. It's worth it. Trust me. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.